Sustaining Creativity podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with James Batson, first officer pilot with United Airlines flying the Boeing 737. He's passionate about giving back and volunteering his time to inspire the future generation. Please enjoy James Batson. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity podcast. I am here today with James Batson. He and I went to high school together and have known each other since we were 14. And I'm super excited that you're here today. And I can't believe I haven't seen you since 1999. So welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here with you today. As I stated earlier, you look exactly the same. I haven't changed much at all. So that's also very welcoming and making me feel comfortable. So thank you for having me.
Oh, good. Yay. Well, I'm super excited to chat with you about creativity. And before we dive in, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit with our listeners about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so James Batson is the full name. I was born in Chicago, moved to Portland when I was still in my younger age, and I grew up and pretty much raised here. Graduated high school at Grant High School with Mari in 1999. Shortly after that, I went to Portland State University. I got my 4-year degree in Japanese. Went to Japan to teach English for a little bit. Came back and finished all of my pilot training. And now I'm an airline pilot flying for United Airlines on the 737.
I love it. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yes, the Japanese, that's one of my strongest memories of you in high school. From high school, that you, and I was just floored that was for anyone who was taking Japanese as their language. Very
I was
impressed.
always enamored and drawn to that culture. I remember in high school doing some of my homework, I would write Japanese characters in there, and the teacher would get mad and call my mom. And
That's amazing, though. That's such a creative little homework twist.
Yeah, my mind is always going like that. I'm always that's up my alley. That's who I am.
That's incredible. I love it. Well, I'm super excited to chat with you, and congratulations on getting all of the pieces to be a pilot. That is such a huge accomplishment, and it's not something I would ever want to do for myself, but I'm really glad that there are people in the world who want to do it. So
yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. That means a lot.
Wonderful. Well, since we're chatting about creativity today, when you think about creativity, what does it mean to you to be creative?
So for me, there's a number of different things. Start out with, I think, to not be complacent. So this journey of life that we have, I think our goal is to always continue to grow and to evolve. And if you become complacent, I think that limits your ability to imagine and to have creativity. So never becoming complacent, I think, is huge. Also, having the ability to adapt to the necessary, seen or unseen changes in life. When I started this journey to become an airline pilot when I was a little boy in elementary school, I had ideas, and I went to the drawing board and I had ideas of what I thought it took to get there. Mm-hmm. And then when I actually got to that position where it put me into place to start my training, it was anywhere close to what I imagined. But I didn't let that stop me. Mm-hmm. I actually went back to the drawing boards. I became more creative to think of ways to overcome those challenges, and then I made it happen. So yeah, being able to adapt to the changes. And then I think the most important thing is not being afraid to be yourself. You know, we all are unique. We're all different. And if you're living your life trying to conform and, you know, fit in and be accepted by somebody else's opinion about you, then that's going to stop you from thinking the way that you think and being your unique self. So just think for yourself. Don't be afraid to be yourself. And I think that's where your creativity comes from those. So.
I love that. I love that, being your unique self. Such a great reminder, because I think a lot of times when we get into kind of the thick of life, we can forget. And in today's world of social media and everything being online and so easily accessible, we forget what our voice sounds like, and reminding ourselves that we do have that unique perspective and unique experience, and it's valuable and important to continue to cultivate. So thanks for that reminder.
Yeah. One other thing, though, I think, and I forgot about this one, is just having the ability to try to stay positive, and, you know, deal with the hand that you were dealt. So try to, you know, for me, I come from nothing. I come from a single parent home, and we had to really, really fight in order to get to where I am today, which is I'm happy that I wouldn't change that experience for anything. But being positive and being able to make something out of nothing. For example, if I gave you $2, right? And I told you, you know, by Monday, I want you to double these $2 that I give you. A pessimist may think, I don't have anything. How am I going to double this money if I only have $2? An optimist, you know, somebody that's creative and has an imagination and can be their unique selves, they may think, you know, if I go to the Dollar Tree and I buy a bag of candy and that bag has 40 pieces in there and I charge, let's say, I don't know, 50 cents. 40 times 50 cents, what is that going to be, like $20? And if I buy 2 bags and I sell that and it both has 40 pieces in there, that's $40 that I just made with the $2 that you gave me. So that type of mentality and being positive and just not getting beside yourself and just trying to do something, I think that's where it's important. So
I love that. And that is super creative and entrepreneurial to say, oh, I can do this and I'm going to, and we're going to see how it goes. I think that's awesome. And you mentioned kind of overcoming challenges or obstacles on your journey to becoming a pilot. And I'm curious if you would mind sharing some of what those challenges are and how you navigated them, and maybe in creative ways, because it sounds like you have quite the opportunities to be creative.
Yeah, so for me, I come from a single parent home where I told you, my father, he fought in Vietnam, and he was over there, I think, and I don't know how this happened, but I think in order to escape reality, he somehow took some drugs, you know, the opioids. And unfortunately, that addiction followed him back to the U.S. So it wasn't safe for my sister and I to be around that at that young age, be exposed to the harshness of an addiction.
Yeah.
So my parents split. And like I said, there were times where we had nothing. We absolutely had nothing. But those obstacles that I had to overcome, it prepared me for life later on down the road. So for an example, I can think of, actually, when I lived in Japan. I do decent in Japanese, like conversational, but I'm nowhere near the native fluency. And I don't think you ever will be near the native fluency unless you've actually lived there and that's what you do for, 20, 30, 40 years. So when I got there, it was extremely challenging at times because I couldn't communicate. I couldn't converse the things that I wanted to say. And so I had to get creative and think of other ways. For example, if I didn't know the word for like spatula, I had to use like hand gestures or motions to like, get my point across. I would go into a store and I'll be like, hey, do you have, that thing where you cook cakes and you can like flip them? And they tell me, and, a spatula, I'm like, yes, that one. And so that's how like I kind of advanced and continued to make my Japanese fluency grow by just being creative like that. So the challenges that I was met with before in life prepared me for those moments in Japan like that.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I think any culture that we don't grow up in we have to navigate in those ways, but I love the hand motions and using gestures. I have found myself in experiences in that as well, trying to tango dance in Argentina and not speaking Spanish or Argentinian Spanish, and knowing a little bit of German, and so them speaking German and using posture and gesture and facial expressions for me to figure it out. So
it's funny you say that. So my wife and I, we also went to Argentina, and we were down there, and I didn't realize when I go to a foreign country and someone speaks to me in a foreign language, immediately my mind changes to Japanese.
Oh yeah.
That's where I'm used to, like, okay, this is my other language that I know. And so I found myself replying back to them in Japanese. And my wife, she can't speak Spanish either. So we just had to kind of feel our way through it. If we felt like, if they were gesturing, we were thinking, okay, this is what they're meaning. We had no idea. So I get it. When you use German in Argentina, it's the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's how my language brain, because I started learning German in kindergarten. And so I'll translate it through German and then try and place it into Spanish. Yeah, exactly. No, but I love the creativity that goes into it. And it sounds like your ability to kind of go with the flow and not get too worked up about not being able to converse 100% with someone in a foreign language and being willing to maybe even look a little foolish.
No, there were times. I mean, I'm for the most part, I'm pretty easygoing and optimistic. But there were times where, and I won't go too deep into this, but I remember the neighbor. He just didn't like foreigners. He was of like the older generation, and he just didn't like us. And I remember he said something to me. I won't repeat it, and it set me off. And I remember I was so like frustrated. I couldn't get Japanese out of my mouth fast enough, where I just reverted to English because I was yelling at him, and he knew the stuff that I was saying was not anything nice. It was replying to what the mean stuff that he said to me. So yeah, it's tough, but yeah.
we do our best.
Yeah.
Sometimes we revert to old strategies. Yeah, exactly, for sure. And I mean, it sounds like even from a really early age, you have utilized creativity or navigating life in creative fashion. When you think about childhood or young adulthood, what's your earliest memory of being creative?
I would have to say probably, I don't know the exact age, but I'm thinking somewhere along the lines like late elementary, early junior high, but even probably before then. But there's one story, and specifically that I would talk about because I still think about this from time to time. Again, we grew up, we didn't have much, but that didn't stop us. And I remember I've always been into like fast cars and motorcycles and speed and just things like that. I wanted a go-kart. And we couldn't afford a go-kart, and so I thought to myself, you know what, I can make a go-kart. And so I mean, this was a junkyard thing, but I had like 2 bike tires. I had a bucket seat. Uh, I had an old steering wheel out of my uncle's pickup truck. And I just had like all these pieces. And I was looking for like a lawnmower engine. Never found it, but I never completed that task of making the go-kart. But that's where I was very creative because I had in mind, I had it, I envisioned it. I knew that if I had all the working parts, I definitely could have made it happen. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that. Did you ever, growing up, go up to Mount Tabor and watch the go-karts like race down
No,
the
I wish I
road?
would have known. At that time, I was living like further in, Northeast.
Okay, yeah.
So I rarely made it over to, the Southeast side or Mount Tabor side. So yeah, but that would have been cool.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet to go and watch people in their homemade go-karts racing down the road up
Yeah,
there.
I
So
bet.
that's awesome. But I mean, that's so creative as a kid to gather all the pieces, whether it came to fruition or not, still being able to have that blueprint and that idea that and feel kind of in charge of your creativity in that
Yeah.
moment.
And I mean, honestly, I would have been proud of that go-kart. If I would have ever finished that and it had 4 different wheels and it worked, I would have been proud of it. I would have drove it like it was store-bought, because I didn't care what anybody thought. It was more important than finishing, the job and getting it done. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. I love these memories that this question brings up for people about being creative their first time or looking at their life and remembering things that they've done and how they look at it through that creativity lens.
yeah, I think about that story often. It's good to think about where I come from and where I am now and where I'm going. So
Absolutely. And it also sounds like you draw inspiration from so many different avenues in your life. And when you think about inspiration and being inspired, who or what inspires you these days?
oh man. So my wife, um, she is extremely talented. She's extremely open-minded, and
Mm.
she is also extremely stubborn at certain times. But she just pushes me um, like I haven't been pushed before. Like she keeps me honest.
Mm.
She keeps me uh, like trying to try new things, not being afraid to like, if I don't know what some food thing is, she just says, just try like a little piece. And I'll try it and I may not like it, but after I'll feel better about it. Like, wow, if you weren't here to push me, I never would have, tried that. So she's, she's very inspirational to me and I appreciate her. My mother, just of all the sacrifices that she had to make, and all the, the ways that she had to be creative to, you know, make ends meet and give us an opportunity to have a future. Uh, that right there is the epitome of like inspiration for me. I wouldn't be here where I am today without my mother's sacrifices and opportunities for us to get ahead. And then lastly is my mentor. His name is Gary Dean. He was a Air Force fighter pilot out here in Portland, and eventually he retired a 2-star general in the Air Force. And he also had his other career as an airline captain with Delta Airlines. He just recently retired, and I went on his last flight in the cockpit in my uniform. I fly for United, he flies for Delta, but I was still able to make that happen. So, all the lessons that he's taught me along the way, no matter how successful you get, remember to remain humble. You know, don't ever forget to give back and help somebody else out, and just continue to evolve and grow. I think those 3 people in my life, I mean, there's many more, but those 3 people really, really helped me to be inspired.
I love it. And it sounds like you have such an amazing kind of pod of people in your life that support you and inspire you. I love hearing it. I love hearing where people draw inspiration from the people in their life. And I love that piece that your wife gets you to try new food, because I do that all the time too.
It depends. I mean, if it's something like bugs or something really extreme, no, I'm not going to try it. But if it's something that, like basic, like simple, basic thing like kimchi, I would try it. She eats these fermented beans. It's called natto, and it smells awful. I tried it, and I think it tastes awful, but she loves it. But at least I tried it. I'm not afraid to try it. So
exactly. I think that there's a lot of creativity that goes into like being open and willing to try it, and maybe you don't like it and maybe you do, and that's okay. So
yeah.
I think it takes, trust and courage and creativity to be willing to put yourself out there and try new things. And I think that's awesome, because I do that as well. And also support my boyfriend to do it too, to try new things.
Well, think about it, like something like Parmesan cheese.
Yeah.
Parmesan cheese smells awful, but it tastes amazing. And if you, like when I was a kid, I remember thinking to myself, no, I don't want to try that. That stinks. And then you try it and it was like, wow, this is really good. You kind of learn to deal and adjust to not appreciate it. I don't ever appreciate the smell of it, but it's something that you get used to. You go. So if I wasn't brave enough in trying it, then I would have never. So that's what you have to keep in mind.
Nice. I like that idea of being brave enough to try something new. Yeah. It does. I think that's important also. And it sounds like you have such a large community in all of the different areas of your life. And when you think about your community, how do they impact or influence your creativity?
So, that's a really touching, I guess, question. And I take pride in this one because, growing up in the African and Black community here in Portland, it's tough. And you don't have somebody that believes in you and wants to like be by your side to build you up and to give you that opportunity. You just feel kind of, I don't know, like nothing is possible, like you have to fall in position and not have an opportunity ahead in life. Mm-hmm. So for me, when I was in middle school, I had these two philanthropists that took interest in, I guess, helping to fund my pilot training career. Mm. And I told them, when I get in a position where I make it to the airlines and I make enough money, that I would pay them back. And they were very wealthy. They were extremely wealthy. They didn't want the money. They said, we don't want the money back. What we want you to do is to pay this forward, be of service to somebody else, which is why I'm so passionate about volunteering, because representation matters. I go into a lot of these schools on behalf of OBAP. OBAP it's an acronym, OBAP, and it stands for Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals. And they have an APIS program. I know pilots, we love acronyms, but APIS is APIS, Aviation Professionals in School. And so what I do is I volunteer on behalf of OBAP, and I go in uniform to these schools, and I tell these kids my story. And I try to inspire them and let them know, like, hey, I believe in you. If I can do it, I come from where you come from. If I can do it, you can do it. And so being creative and giving back to the community, it always forces me to, again, I get complacent. I have to change my story up every once in a while. There's all different levels, elementary, there's middle school, there's high school. I can't talk to a high school kid how I talk to an elementary school kid, but the message is still the same. So I have to find ways to be able to communicate that message and inspire them. So that one is important to me.
Nice. And you are 100% correct. Representation does matter, and it's so important. And thank you for giving back to the community. I mean, it's such a huge gift that you have the ability to share. And
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, it's I remember having people come into school and talk about professions and things, and yeah, it's really impactful for
When I met my mentor, I mean, I was in high school then, and he was like one of the first Black pilots that I met. And for him to believe in me, and when we go out, he would say, uh, he wouldn't even call me his mentee. He would say, "This is my son. This is my replacement. I found a replacement. I got to make sure he eats. I got to make sure he's taken care of. I got to make sure that he's doing his schoolwork, because when I go, he's going to replace me." And for him to believe in me, not only did it inspire me to believe in myself, but it made me actually visualize and see that, hey, I can take his place. So I know the importance of representation and giving back, and that's why, because of the coolies helping me out, I'm so passionate about giving back.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you for giving back and continuing to share all of what the gifts that you have been given with other people. That's awesome. Yeah. And navigating the world of COVID and all of that in today's society, I'm sure you've come up against kind of everyday issues that you've had to navigate. And what are some everyday issues that you have had to use creativity to solve?
I can think of two things right now. So again, I in addition to being an airline pilot, I'm also in the process of starting my drone business. And I have no idea how to get my own business up and running. This is not something that I've ever studied or have experience in. And so it's challenging. And I'm finding ways to talk to numerous friends of mine that were able to start their business. But not only am I learning how to start my business, I'm also learning how to fly this drone. It sounds easy, but things like being very smooth with the controls. When you take a shot, your photo won't be blurry from the camera, moving around. I'm also learning about photography. A classmate of mine, of yours too, Cameron Brown, he's a professional photographer, and he's helping me learn the ropes of going out on photo shoots with him, and teaching me camera 101 and exposure and shutter speeds and all that stuff. Like I'm actually really starting to understand it more, and I appreciate that. So finding ways to be creative and to get this business up and running is challenging, but it's also, I enjoy it. The other thing I would say is I've always known that I needed to change my eating habits. We're trying to have kids right now, and my career as an airline pilot, it all rests upon having a medical. We need a first-class medical to fly. And if I'm not taking care of my health, and I'm not exercising, and I'm not eating right, I can see my health already starting to go down a path that I don't want it to be in a position where I can't recover from. And so I'm taking the necessary steps to eat healthier. So I'm eating a lot more fruits and veggies. I'm drinking a lot more water. I'm exercising a lot more. However, I find it very challenging because when I eat a salad every single day, I get tired of the salad. I want to have something other than a salad where it's going to provide the nutrients, from vegetables, where it's going to taste good and it's something that I enjoy. So finding ways to be creative, to find out what goes with what tastes well with other things. It's challenging, but it's fun.
Nice. Those are great everyday things. And I'm sure you're not alone in both of them. Starting a new business, I feel like I'm right there with you in that, not having gone to acting school, I didn't necessarily get marketing strategies or that piece, or being a therapist. I definitely don't have how to market a business, so I'm learning those along the way as well, and being really inspired by other people that I talk to who have done it and who've helped me out. So
that's it. Like I said in the beginning, life is all about evolving and continuing to grow. So, this is an opportunity for us. Yeah, we don't have that necessary prior experience, but now we're getting involved in it and we're learning. So this is part of that growing that I'm
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's nice to share it with someone else who's also in that learning, growing phase.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, I have one more question for you, and it's not one that I sent before, but I'm curious what you feel your secret to creativity is.
My secret to creativity. Again, I just think, along the lines of, I'm not afraid to be myself. Like, I know I have some bizarre, off the wall thoughts sometimes, I think that's all we all do, but I'm not afraid to say it. Like, I think we're all different. I think we all contribute to this thing in what we call life, in trying to be better. But I also just think that, if you have the ability to not really care what somebody else thinks about your thoughts, I think that's what's going to help you to really be successful and be as creative as you can.
I love that. And that's so important and so challenging all at the same time.
It is. Honestly, the older I get, the clearer it becomes. Like when I was in high school, I wasn't this mature. I was letting other people, decide like, how I reacted to certain things, or, if I was thought of to be the funny guy, I would always do something because people expected me to be that way. But now that I'm older and I realize and I have that life experience, I don't have to. I'm just going to be me. And if I'm going to be funny, I'm going to be funny. I'm not going to do it because you expect me to be funny. I'm going to do it because that's just who I am. And that comes with life and that comes with age. But yeah.
Absolutely. And I don't think any of us were as mature as we are now in high school.
Oh, no, you were pretty mature in high school. It felt like you were always a step ahead, but.
And I don't know that was such a great thing in high school either.
It's okay. Some people have like an older soul, I mean,
True.
I listened to the 70s and 80s music, before 60s and 70s. I still do. My mom always says, you have an old soul, but I guess it's a term now.
It is. No, and it's true. I was, I think, trying to be as mature as possible in high school. And then I've learned so much since then about being who I am. Yeah. Nice. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me about creativity and all of the things that you've been doing, and share some fun tips and tools that maybe other people will be inspired to try. And I really appreciate you taking the time. So thank you.
I appreciate you having me on. And if I can help out again in the future, if you have another topic you want to discuss, by all means, reach out to me and schedule it.
Awesome. Well, yay. Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so like us on Facebook and Instagram. We are Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and your family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your comments, reviews, and questions. Tune in Tuesdays for a new episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.